Welcome to CEO Insights. I'm Marilyn de Guzman with investingnews.com. I'm speaking with John Wisbey, CEO of International Lithium. Hi, John.
Hi.
Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again.
Yeah. So let's talk about the lithium property that you've sold in Ireland. Could you talk a bit more about that? What's the update on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we announced back in September that we'd sold a share in the, or we'd sold our remaining stake in the project, and we'll be selling the company the shares as well. It's a good lithium property. The majority partner is Ganfeng Lithium, and they had 55%, we had 45%, and we could kind of see that was going to lead to our being gradually diluted, and it seemed a good time to sell that property, keep a decent royalty, which we've managed to negotiate, and at the same time use that money to invest in other projects, and which we'll be doing. So we had a bit of a hiccup because we suddenly were told that maybe the Canadian authorities would regard that as any foreign asset owned by a Canadian company could be a matter of strategic national importance for Canada, and we thought that was strange because it wasn't a matter of strategic importance for our company. So how could it be for Canada? Anyway, we had to go through that, and that's now been okayed, and we're on the final straight of closing the deal.
Right. And then speaking of Canada, you do have the project that you're focused on, which is the Raleigh Lake lithium and rubidium project. Could you talk about the progress on that?
Yeah, sure. So we about a year ago we announced a PEA on the Raleigh Lake project. We have lithium and rubidium there, as you said, but we only did the PEA on the lithium because the rubidium is a slightly more complicated calculation because the market is smaller. So you have to there had to be more analysis done. But so the NPV of that at that time was 342.9 million Canadian dollars. Very, very, very nice. So unfortunately, what's happened since then is the lithium price has fallen quite a bit. And I remember at the time we launched it, I was a bit upset because if we'd done it 6 months earlier, as other companies had, it would have been nearer 700 million. But now, of course, it's quite a lot less than that amount. So we're likely to complete that this year by doing a PEA on the rubidium as well. And that seems logical. It was always a logical thing to do, but we need to do more analysis of the market. Rubidium is valuable metal. It's kind of priced per kilogram rather than per ton, and that could be actually the deciding factor at Raleigh Lake to make it really valuable as opposed to quite interesting. And so that's still exciting, and we have quite a large deposit there. So we're pleased.
It's for investors maybe that's not too familiar with rubidium. Can you talk about the opportunities there? What's the application and what's the market opportunity?
Okay, so I mean, rubidium it's an alkali metal, just like lithium is, and sodium, potassium, then rubidium, then cesium. So basically, you can use it for the same sort of things as cesium, where cesium is used for high precision atomic clocks. So can rubidium be space clocks. Cesium can be used in oil wells for a cesium formate for at the bottom of an oil well, and so could rubidium. And so we see quite a lot of applications. The market is undoubtedly much smaller than for lithium. So therefore getting data is more difficult. It's more opaque. But for example, space clocks, for example, high precision atomic clocks for the military, and that's why rubidium's a strategic metal in the United States. Not yet in Canada. I don't know why not. But it is in the US. So it's a valuable metal. So if you multiply out the price per kilo, it's kind of $1 million per ton rather than like $1,000 per kilo. So whether that price would hold if there's a lot of it developed, don't know. But anyway, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, and you've also made a strategic, identification of Zimbabwe as a strategic location for your global lithium strategy. What's going on there?
Okay. I mean, so the reason we think Zimbabwe is interesting is that it's the number 6 in the world, or number 7, something like that, for lithium reserves. It's a country which has, I mean, it clearly had its troubles as a country. It had hyperinflation. It's definitely coming out of that now, but with the new government 7 or 8 years ago, and it's got a quite educated workforce, and it's got lots of opportunities. And so we've applied for various what are called exclusive prospecting orders, where you get the sole rights for an area like 50,000 hectares, not quite big areas, and if assuming we get those, then actually we've got quite an interesting asset down there. And it won't be just lithium inevitably. There are always other metals that are there as well, and so we hope to be able to make some announcements. It's taken much longer than I thought and hoped, but I think we're almost there. But I might have told you that 6 months ago, so I'm past the point of predicting.
Well, we'll definitely watch out for that. In terms of you've talked about the macro level, the lithium price. What are your what are you seeing? I've read some reports that 2025, lithium will have a comeback in terms of pricing. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, obviously, I don't have a crystal ball any more than you or anybody else, but you have to look at the macro picture. And so clearly there's more supply coming on board, or there was before the lithium price fall. A lot of people have sort of put their plans on hold. But there's also obviously increasing demand. So whether the electric cars with a range of 200 kilometers were not that interesting, whether you gave them a subsidy or not. But electric cars with a range of 1,000 kilometers start to be much more interesting. And then you're just talking about the price and the economics, like for everything else. And I think most people in cities want a clean city. They would rather have an electric car than breathing in diesel fumes. So whether you're extreme green or extreme not green, I mean, nobody wants a dirty city. And so I think the movement towards electric cars is unstoppable, especially in cities. And that's going to power the demand for a long, long time. Then you get things like electric battery storage. Clearly, lithium's got a part to play in that big market. So I see the demand going up and up, kind of exponentially for at least the next 10 years. The only question is whether supply runs behind that or ahead of it. And obviously the fall in lithium prices has curbed that supply, and probably that would help to accentuate the next upturn rather than just make it a slight upturn. But when that would happen, God knows. But I think it looks to me like we've bottomed out. From the last 6 months, it's been here, but it hasn't gone further down and further down.
Right. And so over the near term, what are some of the catalysts? Like, are you working on something over the near term?
Well, I mean, we are going to be looking very carefully at the whole rubidium thing this year, because we have something very valuable there, and we want to make sure that we can maximize the value of it, rather than just sort of saying it's academically interesting. And lithium, we're looking at our strategic options for Raleigh Lake, and whether that means we finance it or we partner for it, or there are all sorts of things that we could do. We also have a small property in which I should have mentioned in Ontario which has copper potential. It's got a big VMS, volcanic massive sulfide deposit, and we haven't yet got a resource estimate, so I can't talk about that. But that could be interesting as well. So those things we're going to look at, carry on developing, and I hope that Zimbabwe will come soon, in which case we may have a very powerful story to tell in a year's time about what's going on there. And so in interesting time. I prefer the lithium price back at 80,000 than at 10,000, but on the other hand, those aren't bad problems to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Thanks, John, for joining me today. And thanks everyone for watching. Join us again next time for another edition of CEO Insight.